to North of 60. I'm Heidi Schweighofer. I have a very special show for all of you today. First, I want to just talk a little bit about my family. My family moved to Hudson almost 30 years ago. My daughter Morgan went through the entire public school system from kindergarten right on through senior year. We moved here in part because of the excellent reputation of the school system, but also we loved the small town. We thought it was a beautiful little city. It was very walkable. It was very safe, and our neighbors just welcomed us with open arms. As we grew up, all of us here in Hudson, we took an enormous amount of pride in living here. My father would come and visit, and every single visit he would say, "You live in a utopia, kid." That Hudson is not today's Hudson. I am ashamed of some of the actions of city leadership. I'm embarrassed to watch school board meetings and see the behavior of some of the attendees. I'm appalled at what has happened in this town, at the infighting in city government. And I am utterly troubled that there would be death threats issued against elected officials. With all of that in mind, I have decided who I'm going to vote for city council. I have done that based on my belief that there will be a restoration of dignity and respect and civility. I am voting for Pat Getz, Mike Donovan, and re-electing Nicole Kowalski. All three of them are here with me today. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. We're going to stay focused on senior topics, but we don't live in a bubble over age 60, and so we will talk about things that affect other residents of Hudson as well. So I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Who wants to start with the introduction? Mike, you're sitting right here next to me. Go ahead.
Sure. My name's Mike Donovan, and I am a 17-year resident of Hudson. All three of my kids have gone through Hudson schools, and I'm a 30 years of experience in public and private sector. Got a master's in public administration. I feel like I'm uniquely qualified to fill the office of city council.
I agree.
So I'm asking for your vote, and I think I can hit the ground running, and I am excited about this opportunity.
I am too. Pat.
Well, I've known Heidi since her daughter was about 2 or 3, though we kind of lost contact, though I moved here to Hudson 16 years ago. Had lived in Shaker Heights before that. And I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist, and I'm the only one in the group who is truly a senior citizen here.
Well,
okay,
yeah.
The both of us. And I have my daughter, son-in-law, and 3 grandkids live here in Hudson. And so my goal is to have Hudson be the place that they remember the way you remember the old Hudson, being a place that they can grow and be proud of. As a child psychiatrist, I've done a lot of work with people. I'm empathic, I know how to collaborate, I know how to problem solve, and I can bring those skills to the council since now I'm still working, but only part-time. So I'm excited about this challenge.
I am too. Nicole, people know who you are.
Hi, Hudson. I'm Nicole Kowalski, currently your at-large councilwoman. I'm running for re-election this year, and as you know, I was just elected last year because the term that I won last year was to fulfill a partial term. So now all 3 of the seats are on the ballot this year, and I'm excited to hopefully represent everyone for another 4 years.
Good, thank you. Let's talk a little bit about some things that seniors might be interested in, and I will go back to a phone call. This is the honest to God truth that I just had last week with a gentleman who only introduced himself by his first name, but he said, "Where is there a rec center in Hudson?" And I wasn't understanding what he meant. So we went through, well, there's SUMA and there's Life Center, and you can come to, City Hall and there's some classes there. No, I want a place where seniors can go for exercise. It's low cost. We have a variety of things in front of us that we can choose from. And that whole rec center business has been brought up more than once. I know with the old school and what to do with it. Can you all talk about what you're seeing in our future? If it's something we need, you want, what do you envision? Anyone?
I think part of the struggle is the cost of such a thing. That would mean that we would need probably a levy. It would cost significant amount. So it may be better to think about how can we use what is available. I think it would be great if we had a dedicated senior center in a place like Barlow or the City Hall. If a senior has silver sneakers, you can go for free at Life Center. I know not everybody has that, but they don't have senior-oriented programs. I did go to one of the classes that you had there, and it was really a lot of fun. It was the Tai Chi yoga one. But I don't know why we couldn't have something like that every day. And that space is not being used. So that might be a suggestion that could occur.
Increase the number of classes and keep them at the community room at City Hall.
I mean, I know myself during COVID, it was really isolating.
Yes.
And even though I was working, but it was on Zoom, and I wasn't seeing friends, and it was pretty depressing. And I can't imagine what it was like for somebody who lives by themselves, or maybe they're in with their family, but they're not out there doing anything. So, of course, in COVID, they wouldn't have been able to go to a senior center. But I think now we need to think about that and try to figure out how can we make something like that happen.
I couldn't agree with you more. What do the rest of you think?
I think those sound like great ideas. I think one reason I'm running in Hudson is that we have a great government, that we've got good financials, so that we have a AAA rating from Moody's, which means that we get our credit rating is good, and so that if we did want to make a capital investment in something like a senior center, we can get low interest loans of like 2%, which is better than the business community can get in most cases. So I think we need to support our government, and I think that's something that is worth
Looking into. Have you seen Barlow Community Center?
Yes.
Have you all seen that? I know it's old, but what I really like about it is that the parking lot and the Barlow is so accessible. You can literally drive right up almost to the door. It has a kitchen inside, although it's a catering kitchen, I believe. I always thought, why can't we use Barlow as a senior place to gather and revamp it so that it would be more appropriate for the kinds of things that seniors are interested in doing. I don't know if that's possible.
I think that's a really interesting suggestion. Something that I have brought up to council since being elected was this idea of a city-owned rec center. And as Patricia alluded to, the cost is really the biggest barrier here, because it would likely require a property tax a levy on our property taxes. And the feedback I'm hearing from the community is that not everyone is willing to pay for that. They are more inclined to pay for levies for the schools, but less inclined to pay for a levy for something such as a city-owned recreation center. And the reason for that is because many people already belong to gyms or private exercise boutiques, like maybe Orange Theory or CrossFit or the Yoga Lounge or something of that nature, where they go for exercise services, and they don't want to have to pay for both. But what I am hearing from a significant portion of the community, and it's specifically our senior citizen population and then our younger families with younger children, is that they do want certain amenities that Hudson doesn't currently offer. And for the younger families, that has resoundingly been swim facilities. The younger families want swim facilities that don't require a country club membership, them to drive to another city. And not all of the neighborhoods have a community pool. So that is an amenity we are lacking. And the other one that I hear quite often is, like we're talking about now, a place for senior citizens. And so it's been clear to me as the city has been researching this topic, because it is a topic that I have encouraged council and our staff to look more into. It's been clear to me that those are two unmet needs in our community. And I think that there are solutions out there. As we were alluding to earlier, we do have a lot of amazing parks and recreation facilities here in Hudson that a lot of our seniors enjoy using, but that concept of being able to gather in one place is so important. It's really just getting community buy-in for something like a levy is what is difficult.
I think that you are absolutely correct. There are so many seniors who are members of gyms, but I think that what I see at the events that we've been holding at the community room at City Hall have been older seniors, and perhaps those that live alone, don't have a lot of family here in Hudson. So they're looking at what is offered as a real get out of the house and get to know some other people and enjoy lunch and a cup of coffee, and it makes my day. And that we have it now, I understand that, but I keep thinking, couldn't we do more?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think we can always do more. We should be looking for ways that we can do more and take what we already have, such as Barlow, and explore ideas like that. Because I think that human connection is really something that our senior citizens might not be getting from one of the other facilities that they're members of. And I think that's true of any resident really who is in favor of a community recreation center. It's a gathering place.
It's a gathering place.
Yeah.
Twinsburg has a rather fabulous senior program, and they have a senior center with everything from pool tables to an auditorium to computers, and it is every single time. I used to volunteer there. Every single time I've gone, there are many people using the facility. So good. I'm glad at least we're all thinking about it. It doesn't have to happen overnight, but maybe we can start advancing the thought that there are more people over 60 in Hudson than there are not. So,
do you mind if I add one thing?
Of course not. Go
and
ahead.
That
I don't mean to talk so much.
If there are a significant amount of senior citizens who feel strongly about this, the best way to get City Council to pay attention is to send them emails, call them up next time you see them in Heinen's or downtown. Grab them, get their attention, and let them know that you are interested in council pursuing this, at least looking at options, considering what we could do. The more feedback that we get, the more likely we are to say, you know what, this is really important and needs our attention right now. And so I think that that's a really good way to get council's attention.
What an excellent idea. And maybe at our next senior event, which will be in October, there will be a luncheon in October. I should make sure that people have the email contact or phone numbers for people on City Council right now to start talking about this issue. Excellent idea. I didn't think of that at all.
Another place to think of as a gathering spot is the library.
Oh, I love the library.
And that we might need to look at trying to incorporate more senior-focused lectures or book reviews or whatever that would be specifically for seniors. And then the other idea is that you have the service learning kids in high school, but even grade school kids? Can we pair the young people with the seniors and even have some special days where we would have gatherings? I mean, we need to start thinking in that way.
Multi-generational.
Yes, yes.
Pat, one of the things that I know, and I'm going to speak for myself, sometimes completely blows me out of the water is my inability to learn new things on my phone or my computer or how to do something that it seems like everybody else can do. And I have often thought, wouldn't it be nice if some high schoolers who know way, it's like their life, could teach seniors one day a month or an evening, here's how you use your camera on your phone, or here's how you do attachments. I'm still a little shaky on that. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to do a multi-generational technology clinic on a regular basis?
We had to download photos for the League of Women Voters 411. I couldn't do it, and so my nephew, who's in his 30s, he fooled around with it for like 45 minutes, and he came up with it. But if it had been left with me, there would have been no photo.
You could send in a sketch of yourself. Some of the things that I have heard that seniors want, it has come up more than once, is services like, I'll use snow plowing as an example. Police, EMS always cite that as an issue in the winter months, that they pull up to an address and the driveway is unplowed or the sidewalk or both. So, is that something we could offer our seniors? If we did, how would we do it? How would we vet it? Would we want to do it based on income? So I'll let any of you jump in.
I think that sounds like a great idea. I think it's maybe something to look into. What do other communities do? It sounds like some of the services you hear for seniors, I know like they have transportation services for seniors. So maybe this is something along those lines, that would need to be sort of explored. But I think it's a great idea.
When I lived in Shaker, they plowed all the sidewalks. They didn't do your driveway, but throughout the whole city, they did that.
Oh, wow.
They also made you keep your garbage back at your garage, and they came up in little golf carts and got your garbage so that the city didn't look terrible.
Wow.
Well, that's why the income tax is so high in Shaker.
Okay.
But you got those kind of services. I'm sure that it costs a great deal, especially in a town like ours where there are so many places that are out of the city, that it would be, I think, a big struggle, don't you think, Nicole?
Yeah, Patricia's point is a great one. Everything costs money. I know some other communities that do similar things to what we're talking about. They do charge like an annual fee for the plowing or the lawn mowing or whatever the service might be. And it's a reduced fee, but a lot of people take advantage of that service, and it's really helpful to senior citizens in other communities. That being said, that also requires more city staff, and so it affects a lot of different things. And I don't think it's impossible, but it would definitely need to be closely considered from a financial and a staffing perspective. I do think, though, that it's worth looking into, and I think it really would benefit the senior citizen residents in Hudson.
Maybe that's one of those things we should be writing our
Absolutely.
council people for.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know Twinsburg offers it. It's a city service, but it is dependent on income, and people have to apply for it, and then their income is actually reviewed. And so under a certain income, it's free. Over a certain income, you pay a reduced charge, and so on. So I'd love to have it at least discussed in a serious kind of way and see if it's something that we could do in the future here. I just read yesterday, in the Hudson Hub about phase 2 and they're going to have an open house to talk about it in September. I think the end of next
this
week.
Wednesday.
It's this
Oh, is it
Wednesday.
this
Yes,
Wednesday?
this Wednesday.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
Has time flown?
We will be having ones following that later in October as well.
Oh, good.
Um,
Okay.
So there is going to be more than one opportunity for residents to attend and give that feedback.
I want to hear what you all think about a development like that. I'd love to know if you know why it failed, why we've gone through this. It seems like my entire life, but we haven't, but why it hasn't been successful in the past. And what your thoughts are about phase 2.
Well, I know that with the previous proposal, it failed, or it passed, or I'm sorry, it was a no vote that was
Right.
it was a very small margin. So
Right.
it was we were very closely divided in town, in the city on the issue. This is a new proposal, and from what I've heard, they've addressed some of the concerns that people have. Again, we'll have to go to these open houses and find out more specifics about it. But I understand that they've addressed some of the wants and needs, like empty nester housing,
Yes.
which I've been hearing. I know we've all been hearing while campaigning that's something that people feel like there's a need for in Hudson. So I think among these 120 units in this proposal, a lot of these sort of fit that bill of an empty nester with, a first floor master.
Yes.
But again, we still need to hear more specifics about it. And I think we also need to get the public input, because I know there's concerns. I want to know what those concerns are from the public.
Yeah, apparently this is half the density of the previous proposal. And I guess the density is similar to what you would see in the historic district where I live. They're talking about, again, modeling it on the historic district, just as they modeled. It's the same group, Fairmont, that did phase 1. And so they're at least saying that they're going to go through all the steps and everybody's going to review it and they're going to get input to make sure that it meets what we see as our Hudson charm.
Yes. I'm trying, when I read the description of where it was, I was actually confused. So is it where the current Heinens is and near those other condos or whatever, those single family dwellings? Is it down by the library? I'm a little not sure.
Yeah, so this proposed plan that Fairmount has put forth for our consideration would have a larger expanded Heinens at the end of Clinton Street, with the parking to the south of that. And then
Okay. Oh, that'd be
Where
nice.
Windstream
Where
is.
the
Yeah.
Windstream building
Oh, that'd be
is.
nice to have that.
And then to the north of the new Heinens, all of that would be residential. And so this new plan is preliminary. It's in the very preliminary stages, and I think that's really important for everyone to remember. We can make changes, and Fairmount has really expressed a desire to be a true community partner in this, which is appealing. And we have seen the great work that they've done on First and Main and how they integrated that into our Main Street, and the care that they took when they built that area. And so I think that has helped with the community buy-in this time. From a historic perspective, it's no secret that I did support the original phase 2 plan. However, the community spoke, and one thing that they clearly communicated to us was that changes needed to be made before they would feel comfortable. I think since then, a lot of people have, dove more into this issue and learned a lot. And this proposal, like Patricia said, has a reduced density from that original plan, which was one of the biggest complaints. Another complaint that I've heard quite frequently is that of traffic. So I have requested that they do a traffic study. But this concept of that empty nester housing, so that we can keep more of our senior citizens here in Hudson who have dedicated so much of their life to our community, is really appealing, because that is a big complaint that, as they both mentioned, I hear almost every day, if not every day, you know, I've dedicated my whole life here. I've paid the property taxes. My kids went through the schools. I love this community. I want to stay here, but I can't find anywhere that I can move.
And they move out.
And they move
move
out.
to neighboring communities.
Yeah, and that's very disappointing. So I think that it's really appealing that this plan would bring some of that first floor master empty nester living into the downtown area where it's very walkable for senior
Yeah.
citizens.
Oh,
they can walk to the new
You wouldn't even
Heinens,
need a car most days.
which is really nice. I think also it's very important to remember that not everyone is going to be happy, right? No plan is perfect. We can't please everyone. And so as council members, we probably will have to make some difficult decisions. And I think that what we really need to get this project done, whatever it may be, whether it's this plan or a different one, if we determine that this is not right for the community, is we need strong leadership who can make decisions.
You know, personally, I love the Heinens the way it is now. I love the smallness of it because you can go in and get things, and yet I hear everybody in the community saying, wow, that would be great to have one that would be double the size. And then they have some ideas for the old Heinens, but they didn't really, couldn't say yet what the ideas would be because they're in the preliminary phase. But
so
it would
the
be,
old Heinens would be gone.
it would be used for something else. It wouldn't, the building wouldn't be gone. It would
Oh,
be used for something
okay.
else. So I think they talked about some kind of boutique retail or
Yes.
some kind of special restaurant, or there's talking, it sounds like, to
There's
a
a
number
lot
of
of different
people.
ideas and options, and
Oh, it's exciting.
the
Yeah.
old Heinens building, should this plan move forward, they would wait to find the right business to go into the old Heinens location.
Good. Yeah, they would have to.
Yeah.
I'm personally hopeful because there really are very, very few places that one can downsize to in Hudson and have a first floor master bedroom and still have that feeling of being in one's home. And I've been phase 2 pro for a very, very long time. I hope finally we can see some movement there.
I think it's important to note that not all of the housing is slated to be empty nester housing. They did discuss the idea of possibly putting in some townhomes. But that being said, like it was mentioned before, it is preliminary, so we'll see if the community wants more of that empty nester housing and less of the, 2-story townhomes. I'm sure they would consider that, but they are looking at market needs and trying to diversify the housing in that area.
Good.
Yeah, the young professionals have difficulty finding places here too.
Sure.
Because the cost is so great. So if there was something that was more in the middle, that would be great for that group of people also.
Hudson's a great community for families. There's a lot of
I know.
4-bedroom homes, and I've benefited from that.
Me too.
And as my kids are all now moving out of the house too. I'm 55 years old, and I'm thinking along the same lines that where will we go?
Yes.
I would love to stay in Hudson.
I want to
So-
stay in Hudson, but I don't want to keep taking care of a 4-bedroom house
Right.
with just my husband and my dog.
Exactly.
So, and that really is an issue, and it has been for me. I know of people who have moved out of town because other surrounding communities do offer more in the single, the downsizing, but still staying within a nice community. What would you like to say, all three of you, to not just give me your vote, please, but what do you want to say to my over 60 audience? We're all going to be there, even you, Nicole. And we're a growing group of people who are getting more outspoken, I think, and I'm happy about that. I think in the past, seniors have been a bit invisible, and maybe that's not the case going forward here. So what would you all like to do? If you could say anything you wanted to an over 60 population, what would it be? Any one of you.
That I'm here to listen to you. I want to know, what your opinions are. I want to know, how do you feel about this phase 2 proposal? How do seniors feel about this? How do seniors feel about other, the divisiveness in the community? I would like to know that. So, as Nicole and Patricia pointed out, reach out to your members of council. Reach out because they want to hear too. So I think we need dialogue.
So people could reach out to you now if they wanted to.
Yes.
And send you an email and tell you what they're thinking about.
Yep. My website's mike4hudson.com, and you can reach me through there.
All right.
So I'll let the others.
I think that, very frankly, I think what has happened in the last year or two has been so disappointing to me and to other people like me. And I just can't stand the thought of it going on anymore. I want this town to be friendly again. I know that sounds very naive, but I want it to go back to respecting each other, and I'm hoping that happens.
Yeah, I grew up when we called everybody Mr. and Mrs. You
Yes,
didn't call
me
people
too,
by their
me
first names.
too.
And you really honored your elders.
Yes.
And again, I think if we could try to do more multi-generational activities. I know I just love doing things with my grandkids, taking them to the park, and I can't keep up with them, but I still have fun with them. But I think if we could even do that in a more organized way, and I think just the fact that you're doing what you're doing and the group that you're with is doing it, we need to make that more front and center in the community. Maybe have more articles about it in the paper.
Good
You know,
idea.
that we need to get the word out there, because there are a lot of wonderful people in this community that like to volunteer, and that we need to tap into that and to use that. I think the negativity that's gone on is just a small group of people, and that we all can model and change that by how we act, and how we can let the younger kids generation see how adults are supposed to act.
It's a small but loud group, Pat.
Yeah.
You know, they've just got an enormous amount of presence all of a sudden.
Yeah, a lot of great things have been said, and what I would like the voters to know is that before I ran, I looked and there were certain things that I felt like weren't receiving the type of attention that they deserved. And so when I was elected, I made it a point and I made a promise to myself that no issue is too small. So if you feel like you're not being heard by our city government, you can come to me, and I believe that I've proven that. You know, I treat every issue with equal importance, because if it affects your quality of life, or it's something you're worried about, or a concern that you have, or there's a need, I think that it is very important that we all listen. So whether it is evaluating the safety of a sledding hill or something as important as phase 2, I think that every issue is important, and I'm here and I will listen and I will make sure that it receives the attention it deserves.
I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad I'm voting for all three of you.
Thank you so much.
And my husband is too, so we're in sync here.
Okay, that's great.
Is there anything else you wanted to say before we say goodbye?
I think I have something I'd like to say, and that is COVID has shown us that you cannot anticipate every single need that's going to arise, or every single crisis, or every single problem. And we saw that in real time, and I'm very proud of being able to work alongside my colleagues on council to come up with solutions. But as you go to the polls on November 2nd, or if you choose to vote earlier, consider who you want to vote for in terms of, is that leadership able to make decisions in the interest of the good of the community, on the fly, in the face of crisis, in the face of difficulty, and do you believe that they are capable of looking at facts and all of the things that go along with making an educated decision based in data and research? So that's what I would have to say.
And it's and it's very important that our city government and our city council people tell the truth, and to get the truth out there.
Yes.
You know, for example, there's some people saying the city hall cost $10 million. Well, it didn't cost that. It cost $6.4 million, and yet that's out there. So that we really have to have the truth. And again, I think being available and being able to change, like Nicole said, that's the essence of being a leader, being able to meet a challenge no matter what it is. And I think the three of us have that in us.
I absolutely think so too. Any last words, Mike?
Just that I think public officials are obligated to have a certain level of decorum.
Hot dog.
And with regard to the divisiveness in you know, in the public dialogue, I don't think it's productive to be, you know, making disparaging remarks about fellow members of council or city staff in public forums. And I think that the three of us will be conscious of that, you know, and I think that I can count on these two. And I know myself, I have made a pledge that I won't make personal, I won't disparage city employees or fellow council members in public forums like online. I think that that's important, that we maintain that level of decorum.
Good. I couldn't agree with you more. I absolutely couldn't agree with you more. I am so thankful that you all came here today. I so appreciate it. I hope you've learned something through today's episode of North of 60. You heard Nicole. If you have any issues or things that you'd like to talk about and directly send to any one of these candidates or to members of City Council as they are now, go for it. I'll make sure that the email addresses and are there phone numbers?
City officials have phone numbers
And
listed.
phone
Yep.
numbers available, and I'll start bringing them to senior events so that if you attend, you'll see the list, and if you want to make a call or send an email, a polite one, of course, you certainly can. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.